Hello everyone, how are you today? I really do hope you're having a good day so far. If you're new to my channel, my name is Taylor. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In this episode of what I call the Thread to Mend podcast series, where I generally sit down and share with you the things I'm making in real time, I'm noticing that I haven't really cast on any new projects. I don't have any exciting updates to share on the two projects I'm currently working, which are the Slipstravaganza by Stephen West and the Fair Pullover by Gudrun Johnston. So I thought I would sit down with you and share the top 10 yarns that I intend to knit with in 2022. I've been keeping up with Vlogmas as best as I can. I guess that's coming down to an end this week, but I've really enjoyed sharing parts of myself that I don't typically include in my podcast videos here on YouTube. I've lost some subscribers, I've gained many more, and I'm just really glad that you're all here. So if you've already subscribed, thank you so much for being here. It feels so good to see you guys in the comments and liking videos and deciding to continue watching. And I just want to thank you so much for an incredible year here on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun and it wouldn't be without you guys, so thank you so much. Now, originally this video was going to be a sit down where I review my Make 9 of 2021, and as it turns out, I didn't do a Make 9 in 2021. It must have just slipped right past me. So I thought instead I might share with you guys 10 yarns that I'm excited to knit in 2022. It is my every intention to knit from my stash. I'm thinking of doing a no-buy 2022. I think I am. As of right now, I feel like I have to just bathe in the abundance of what I have and really take it all in and just be grateful for what already exists in my possession and really channel my focus and my energy on what I have and what I can do with what I have. Hopefully this will be either inspirational to you to knit what you have already in your stash, or maybe you're looking for more yarn to add to it and you want to know what I might recommend. And so that's what this video is for. So sit down, please grab yourself a beverage, something to relax with. Maybe you have your knitting out already. I'm going to take the last sip of coffee I have here and let's get started. In my lap, I have 10 yarns, just one skein of each. This does not include any hand spun. So all of this yarn is commercially available for you to purchase, I believe. None of it is discontinued as far as I know. I'm gonna start with the yarn that I think is the most fun. It is Jill Draper Make Stuff Kingston Yarn. This is a 100% Targhee wool. It's a DK weight yarn and it's 270 yards per 4 ounces. So this is a skein of yarn that weighs 113 grams. And this is the color Fair Street. I love the color of this yarn. It's not quite brown, it's not quite mauve, and it has these gorgeous flecks of yellow and red and white and blue throughout. And I've purchased 4 skeins of this, so I do believe it's going to be plenty to knit a nice pullover or even cardigan. And I think I have a great set of buttons too that would be a good pairing for this yarn. I really am excited to cast this on. I purchased this yarn from Brooklyn General in Brooklyn, New York. I do intend to potentially design a pattern with this yarn, and I think it'll be a top-down raglan shape with a small cable motif to keep it very interesting. But I haven't gone around to that yet. I feel like maybe it'll come to me next weekend when I have a little bit of extra time at home. Now, I might be mistaken, but I do believe that Jill Draper has Green Mountain Spinnery spin her Kingston base yarn, and the next yarn I have is from Green Mountain Spinnery. This is my favorite yarn, I think, of all time. It's really hard to say that, but honestly, I think this might be. I've already knit a sweater for Brian in the same base, and I did knit my Woolen Honey in another gray color of the same base. And this is the sock Art Lana yarn. This is a sock weight yarn, 2-ply, 100% fine wool. All the fibers of this yarn are grown in the US, and it is 400 yards. And I believe that this is a 100-gram skein, if I'm not mistaken. So I I think of this as a fingering base. I know it says it's a sock weight, but I just interpret that as fingering. This gorgeous color here is called Gris, and I think I might be knitting this year. It's hard to say because I very rarely cast on fingering weight sweaters, and right now I'm really into larger garments. I don't wear a lot of form-fitting pieces, but I do have, I think, 5 skeins of this, and so although I might knit Brian another sweater, I feel like this would be a really nice, oversized, cozy, casual garment because I have all the yardage to make more of a boyfriend fit. As you can tell, this yarn has a little bit of a tweedy effect. There are little bits of white here and there. Looks like I got a break in my yarn here. I've had trouble with a few of my skeins of yarn getting stuck in my drawers. As you can see there, it got pinched, which is such a disappointment. I'll certainly lose a few yards off this skein because of that, but what can you do? I don't know. I need to take better care of my stash, that's for sure. I've been coveting this sweater quantity for years, and it's about time I work with what I have and try to bring less home with me. Next up is another sweater quantity of yarn I've been coveting for quite a while. This is local to me. It is from Crooked Fence Farm, and they are a local organic farm here in Baltimore. They have a breed of sheep that's known as California Red, and they have this gorgeous kind of auburn coat when they're young little lambs, and then it grows out to be this beautiful cream color, and that the red hairs, I think they might be called hairs, like guard hairs, or even, I don't know if it's the same as Kemp, which is like a really coarse hair. Those little red hairs make it a little bit more of a rustic wool, kind of like a rug wool, to be honest. But I do think that it will soften up and become a really gorgeous fabric once knit. This is a yarn that I've had in my stash for a couple years now. I know that I want it to be a cabled cardigan, and I have 700 grams of this yarn. It's 260 yards per 100 grams. You can see that it's quite dense. Even though it is a woolen spun, it feels like it doesn't have a whole lot of air in it. But I think it's just the density of the fiber itself. I think that the woolen prep is a great pairing for this type of fiber, but I do feel like this sweater might be better off with lace over cables because of that compactness. Next up we have Elsa wool. This is the softest wool yarn I have ever touched, and it is 100% Korma wool grown in Montana. This is the woolen spun and the sport weight yarn. It is a 2-ply yarn, and this weighs 4 ounces. It is 350 yards, and if you're not a new viewer of my podcast, you know I was knitting with this before to create a weekender sweater for my friend Blair. That didn't quite work out. I accidentally steeped my sock yarn in a cup of hot tea with this garment thrown on top. And so I created this big ugly red blotch all over the front of that garment, and I do have to rip it out. It's still sitting in a drawer waiting for that to happen. And one day soon, I really do need to tear that sweater apart and reclaim what I can that hasn't been destroyed by my negligence. Next up we have Abundant Earth Fibers Verdant Base. This is a DK weight yarn. As you can see, it is 80% merino, 20% rambouillet, and it is 250 yards per 100 grams. The Abundant Earth Fiber Mill is in Washington State, and I just really love this yarn. There is quite a bit of a halo, I'm sure you can see. It does make me think that this yarn, once knit, will pill. So I hope to knit this yarn into a very dense fabric, something with maybe a smaller needle size than suggested. I have 4 skeins of this in my stash, which should be enough for a sweater at 250 yards. Hello. But I might knit a shawl. Whatever I do knit with this, I intend to knit at a slightly tighter gauge than I typically would, because I do feel like it'll help with the potential pilling and create a nice strong fabric that will last well over time. if you're new here, this is Star Baby Moonchild. She loves to join me while recording. She's just out of frame and sitting on top of all the yarn in my lap, so we're gonna just, let's see. Next up, I have a skein of yarn from Bouche and Bouche. I bought this at the Knot House in Frederick, Maryland, and this is Le Petit Lamb's Wool. It is a 2-ply fingering weight yarn. Let's see, it has 248 meters or 270 yards per 50 grams. So it is quite lightweight. And I purchased 4 skeins of this with the intention of knitting color work. So this might be the main color to a future pullover or cardigan. And they also sell this yarn at Brooklyn General if you're ever in Brooklyn, New York. Next up we have, again from Le Bouche and Bouche, Le Petit Silk Mohair. This is a 30% silk, 70% mohair yarn. I believe that the fiber is grown in Italy. And this is the color gray brown, as is the Petite Lamb's Wool yarn I showed you previously. These are the same color. I don't know yet if I intend to knit these together or not. That is a little up in the air. I have only 4 skeins of the wool, but I have at 50 grams, but I have 6 skeins of the 25 gram silk mohair. So I do feel like I might need a 5th skein of the wool to make a complete sweater. But as I mentioned, I do intend to use this for a colorwork cardigan, so I don't know if I'll incorporate mohair into that. I just really love the color, and so it was a coincidence almost that I purchased this silk mohair in the same color as their matching wool base yarn. Now I do intend to knit this silk mohair yarn holding it together with another, and that I believe will be the DK weight organic New Mexico yarn from Green Mountain Spinnery. If you don't know, I am obsessed with Green Mountain Spinnery yarns. I love that they are a worker-owned cooperative, and their mill, it's based out of Putney, Vermont, so it's not far enough for me that I can visit it on occasion. We do drive up to Maine every year, and sometimes on the way back we'll stop through Vermont and check out what they have in their mill. And I just love the people there. I love what they produce. It's so wonderful. I've knit a swatch with this yarn, and I do find that the blend of natural fibers does get a little bit variegated when done in stockinette. So I wanted to either alternate skeins or perhaps utilize a stitch pattern that will kind of mitigate that. But I think that if I hold it together with another yarn, such as this one, that's slightly different in color, it will do that for me. So I think that if I hold these two together, it'll give me a really, really nice fabric. And so that is my intention with this sweater quantity of yarn that I have. I think that these would make a really nice pairing, and I just have to knit a swatch up with those. This was milled at Battenkill Fiber Mill. The farm yarn is from Ensign Farms. That's E-N-S-I-G-N. And it's just gorgeous. It has a lovely drape. It's so squishy and it's so soft, especially for being a long wool breed like Romney. It is quite soft. This is an 80% Romney, 20% black merino blend of fibers. It is a DK weight yarn. I believe it's about 270 yards per 100 grams. And I do see myself knitting, with the 2 skeins I have of this, a gorgeous shawl, maybe with a contrast color, so that it has a nice good size to it. Since purchasing my color card catalog, I haven't made an additional purchase from their website yet, and there are certainly a handful of colors that I need to incorporate into my stash so that I have my full paint box, if you will, of colors for knitting. I find that I gravitate towards the FC colors, the ones that are blends of multiple colors. They have kind of a heathered effect, and there's colors in here that I maybe never would have chosen off the website, but seeing it in person I very much like. For instance, this FC55, it's in the kind of purple family. I feel like it's a really gorgeous color that I would never have chosen, but I love the mix of reds and blues. Also, there's like different kinds of reds, and you can see the true differences among them. So I could see myself getting a skein of the 93. I did previously purchase a skein of the 125. It's this copper color, and that is like the only red I have in my stash. But if I wanted a true red, I would go with the 93. I also love to see all the natural colors in their true form versus on the website. It gives me a better idea of which colors to match. And I'm just really excited to put in another order with Jamieson & Smith sometime in the year. I know I'm gonna do the no-buy, but I also know that I need, you know, at most like 100 more grams of yarn to really utilize all of what I already own of my Jamieson & Smith stash. So that is my only intended purchase in the coming year, and these are my top 10 yarns to knit with. I want to thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. If you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me on TikTok as Taylor Knits. And I just want to thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and that you take care.